Fishing for salmon. Some general tips to get started. Fishing for salmon can be an exciting and rewarding experience, whether you're doing it in freshwater rivers or from the ocean. Here are some general tips for catching salmon. 1. Choose the right time. Salmon are known to spawn in specific seasons, so timing is key. The best time to fish for salmon varies depending on the species and the location. In general, salmon fishing is most productive during the spring and fall months. Two. Understand salmon species. There are several types of salmon, including Chinook, Coho, Sockeye, and pink salmon. Different species may prefer different habitats and are more active at varying times of the year. 3. Select the right gear. Rods and reels. A medium to heavy action rod with a reel capable of holding 200 to 300 yards of line is recommended. Line. A strong braided or monofilament line, 15-30 pounds test, works well for salmon. Hooks. Salmon hooks come in a variety of sizes. Typically, size 2/0 to 6/0 hooks are best, depending on the size of the salmon you're targeting. Four. Use effective baits and lures. Live bait, herring, anchovies, or small fish are effective for salmon. Lures. Brightly colored lures such as spoons, spinners, or plugs can attract salmon. Popular colors include silver, chartreuse, and pink. Eggs. Salmon eggs are a classic choice when fishing in rivers where salmon are spawning. Five. Fishing techniques. Trolling. In the ocean or lakes, trolling is an effective method. You'll need a downrigger to fish at various depths. Casting and drift fishing. In rivers, casting with lures or drift fishing with natural baits can be successful. Fly fishing. In rivers, fly fishing for salmon with streamers or egg patterns can also yield results. 6. Location matters. Rivers and streams. Look for salmon in deep pools, near rocks, or in fast-moving currents. Open water. In the ocean or large lakes, salmon can be found near drop-offs, reefs, or underwater structures. Fishing for salmon in the open ocean. Fishing for salmon in the open ocean can be an exciting and challenging experience. Here are some key aspects to consider for successful salmon fishing in open waters. 1. Best time to fish. Season. The best time to fish for salmon is typically during the summer and fall months, particularly around the migration seasons when salmon are heading to spawn. Tides. Salmon are more likely to bite during certain tide phases, especially the change in tides. The rising tide and slack tides are often the most productive times. Two. Fishing gear. Rods and reels. Choose a medium to heavy rod designed for ocean fishing. A 7 to 10 foot rod paired with a spinning or trolling reel works well. Lines. Use a braided line for increased strength and sensitivity. A 15 to 30 pounds test line is often suitable for ocean salmon. Lures and baits. Popular choices include herring, anchovies, or artificial lures like spoons, flashers, and hoochies, a squid-like lure. Flashers and spinners are commonly used to attract salmon. Downriggers. In deep ocean waters, downriggers are essential to get your bait or lure to the appropriate depth. Three. Techniques for ocean salmon fishing. Trolling. This is the most common method. It involves dragging lures or bait behind the boat at varying speeds. Different depths are targeted based on the type of salmon you're after. Drift fishing. For some areas, you may drift with the current while casting. This can be effective, especially when targeting king salmon, Chinook. Bottom fishing. Depending on the location, bottom fishing techniques may work for certain species of salmon, but they are less common. 4. Location. Offshore areas. Salmon tend to stay in deeper waters during migration. Look for areas where the depth drops significantly. Fisheries. Research local salmon fishing hotspots or consult with local fishermen, guides, or charters for the most productive locations in your area. Five. Salmon species in the open ocean. Chinook, king. The largest and most prized salmon, often found in the deeper parts of the ocean. Coho, silver, slightly smaller than Chinooks. Coho tend to be more aggressive in feeding, making them exciting targets. Sockeye, red, more common in colder waters. These fish are a bit smaller than Chinook. Pink and chum. Both species are abundant in the ocean but are often not as sought after due to their size or flavor. 6. Safety and regulations. Always check local regulations regarding fishing limits, seasons, and licensing. Many regions have specific rules about the type of gear and the number of fish you are allowed to catch. The open ocean can be unpredictable. Ensure your boat is well equipped with safety gear, and always monitor the weather forecast before heading out. By preparing the right gear, choosing the best time, and using the proper techniques, you'll increase your chances of a successful salmon fishing trip on the open ocean. Fishing for salmon in rivers and streams. Fishing for salmon in rivers and streams can be an exciting and rewarding experience. Here are some tips and techniques to help you catch salmon in these environments. 1. Know the right time and place. Season. Salmon typically run in rivers during their spawning season, which varies depending on the species, Chinook, Coho, Sockeye, etc. Most salmon runs occur in the fall, but some species may run in the spring or summer. Location. Look for areas with strong currents, deep pools, and places where salmon gather before moving upstream. Common locations include river mouths, deep runs, and near structures like rocks, fallen trees, and riffles. 2. Choose the right gear. Rod. A medium to heavy action rod, typically 8 to 10 feet in length, works best for salmon fishing in rivers. Reel. A durable spinning or bait casting reel capable of handling heavy lines and strong fish is ideal. Line. Use a 12 to 20 pound test monofilament or braided line to ensure you can handle the weight and power of a salmon. Three. Techniques. Drift fishing. This is a common method where you cast your bait or lure into the current and let it drift downstream, mimicking the natural movement of food. This can be done using live bait, like roe or worms, or artificial lures, like spoons, spinners, or jigs. Casting lures. Use spoons, spinners, or crankbaits that imitate small fish or other prey. Cast these lures and reel them in with a steady retrieve, varying the speed to attract the salmon. Fly fishing. If you're into fly fishing, use patterns that resemble salmon eggs, small minnows, or other aquatic insects. Techniques like dead drifting or swinging flies can be effective in rivers. Six. Respect the environment. Always follow local fishing regulations regarding seasons, limits, and protected areas. Handle fish carefully, especially if you're practicing catch and release, to ensure the fish survive after being returned to the water. With the right preparation and patience, you'll increase your chances of landing a salmon while fishing in rivers and streams. Fishing for Chinook salmon. Some tips and strategies. Fishing for Chinook salmon, also known as king salmon, is an exciting and rewarding experience due to their size, strength, and taste. Here are some tips and strategies for targeting Chinook salmon. Where to find Chinook salmon. Rivers and streams. Chinook salmon migrate upriver to spawn. Key rivers include the Columbia, Kenai, and Sacramento rivers. Coastal waters. Found near the shore in bays and estuaries. Open ocean. Found at various depths depending on the season and food availability. Best time to fish, seasons. Late spring through fall, depending on the specific region. Tides. Chinook bite well during a changing tide when baitfish are moving. Time of day. Early morning and late evening are typically the most productive. Tackle and gear. Rods. Use a medium to heavy action rod, 8 to 10 feet long. Reels. High-quality spinning or baitcasting reels with strong drag systems. Line. 20 to 40 pounds test braided or monofilament line, with fluorocarbon leaders for stealth. Baits and lures. Live bait. Herring, anchovies, sardines, or sand shrimp. Cut bait. Fresh or cured salmon roe. Artificial lures. Plugs. Quickfish or flatfish lures in metallic or bright colors. Spinners. Vibrant colors with flash, e.g., orange, chartreuse, or silver. Spoons. Large wobbling spoons like the crocodile. Flies. Streamer flies imitating baitfish. Techniques. 1. Trolling. Effective in both saltwater and freshwater. Use a downrigger to maintain the correct depth. Slow troll with cut bait or lures. 2. Drift fishing. Ideal for river fishing. Use a float or drift rig with bait or jigs. 3. Casting. Target holding areas like eddies, undercut banks, and deep pools. Cast spoons or spinners upstream and retrieve downstream. 4. Jigging. Effective in deep waters or around underwater structures. Use heavy jigs tipped with bait. Key tips. Location matters. Identify underwater structures, deep channels, and areas where Chinook rest during migration. Adjust depth. Chinook can be found from just under the surface to 200 feet deep, so experiment with depths. Play the fight. Chinook are strong and may take multiple runs. Keep steady pressure and adjust drag as needed. Follow regulations. Check local fishing laws for size limits, quotas, and seasonal restrictions. Chinook salmon overview. The Chinook salmon, Oncorhynchus chawicha, also known as king salmon, is one of the most iconic and sought-after fish in North America. Here are some key details about Chinook salmon. Physical characteristics. Size. Chinook are the largest species of Pacific salmon, often weighing between 10 to 50 pounds. Some individuals exceed 100 pounds. Appearance. They have a silvery body, a greenish-blue back, and small black spots on their dorsal fin and tail. During spawning, their coloration can change to reddish or coppery tones. Life cycle. Anadromous species. Chinook salmon are born in freshwater streams or rivers, migrate to the ocean to mature, and return to freshwater to spawn. Spawning. They typically spawn in the summer and fall, depending on the population and location. Lifespan. Their life cycle varies between 3 to 7 years, with 4 to 5 years being the most common. Habitat. Freshwater and ocean. Chinook inhabit cold, clear rivers and streams as juveniles and migrate to the ocean, where they spend most of their adult life. Range. Found along the Pacific coasts of North America, from California to Alaska, and Asia. They are also introduced in the Great Lakes and other freshwater systems worldwide. Diet. Juveniles eat insects, zooplankton, and small crustaceans in freshwater. Adults feed on fish, squid, and crustaceans while in the ocean. Cultural and ecological significance. Indigenous importance. Chinook salmon are vital to the cultural, spiritual, and dietary practices of many indigenous communities. Keystone species. They support ecosystems by providing nutrients to rivers and forests when they die after spawning, fishing, and conservation. Recreational and commercial fishing. Chinook are highly prized by anglers for their size and fighting ability. They are also valued commercially for their rich, fatty flesh. Conservation. Some populations are threatened due to habitat loss, overfishing, and climate change. Conservation efforts include hatcheries, habitat restoration, and regulations. Fishing for Coho salmon. Guide to help you succeed. Fishing for Coho salmon, also known as silver salmon, can be an exciting and rewarding experience. These fish are known for their acrobatic fights and tasty meat. Here's a guide to help you succeed in your Coho salmon fishing adventure. Where to find Coho salmon. Location: rivers. Look for rivers where Coho salmon spawn, especially in the Pacific Northwest, Great Lakes tributaries, and Alaska. Saltwater. Near shore waters, estuaries, and bays during their migration. Lakes. Some large freshwater lakes, like the Great Lakes, are stocked with coho. Where to find Coho salmon. Season. In rivers, coho typically run from late summer to fall, August through November. In saltwater, coho are present during summer months, May to September. Habitat. In rivers, target deeper pools, riffles, and undercut banks. In saltwater, look near kelp beds, points, and tidal rips. Gear and tackle. Rod and reel. A medium heavy spinning or baitcasting rod, 8 to 9 feet, with a fast action tip. A reel with a smooth drag system. Line. Rivers. 8 to 12 pounds test monofilament or fluorocarbon. Saltwater. 20 to 30 pounds braided line with a fluorocarbon leader. Gear and tackle. Lures and baits. Spinners and spoons. Bright colors like orange, pink, or chartreuse. Plugs and jigs. Effective in both saltwater and rivers. Bait. Roe, eggs, sand shrimp, or herring. Fly fishing. Use 7 to 9 weight fly rods with sink tip lines. Effective flies include streamers and brightly colored patterns, pink, orange, chartreuse. Techniques. Casting. Cast upstream and retrieve at a moderate speed, allowing the lure to move naturally with the current. Use erratic movements to mimic injured prey. Trolling, saltwater or lakes. Troll at slow to moderate speeds. Use flashers or dodgers to attract fish, with hoochies or cut plug herring. Drift fishing. Use bait or lures, casting upstream and letting them drift naturally through the water. Jigging. Effective in deeper water. Bounce jigs off the bottom to attract fish. Tips for success. 1. Time of day. Fish early morning or late evening for the best action. Overcast days can also be productive. 2. Tides. In saltwater, fish during incoming or outgoing tides for increased salmon movement. 3. Reading the water. Look for signs like jumping fish, surface boils, or birds diving. Tips for success. Regulations. Check local fishing regulations for season dates, size limits, and gear restrictions. Safety. Wear a life jacket if fishing from a boat or wading in rivers. Be cautious of strong currents and slippery rocks. Coho salmon fishing is not only a challenge but also a great way to enjoy nature and bring home some delicious fish. Tight lines and good luck. Coho salmon overview. Coho salmon, Oncorhynchus kisuch, also known as silver salmon, are a popular species of Pacific salmon known for their acrobatic leaps and aggressive behavior when hooked. They are native to the northern Pacific Ocean and rivers that flow into it, including those in North America, Asia, and Japan. Characteristics. Appearance. Coho salmon have silvery sides and a bluish back when in the ocean. During spawning, they turn reddish with darker backs and hooked jaws. Size. Adults typically weigh 8 to 12 pounds, 3.6 to 5.4 kilograms, and measure 24 to 30 inches, 60 to 76 centimeters, long, though larger specimens can occur. Diet. In the ocean, they primarily feed on small fish and invertebrates. Juveniles in freshwater consume insects and zooplankton. Life cycle. Spawning. Coho salmon spawn in freshwater streams with gravel beds, often in late fall to early winter. Life cycle. After hatching, juveniles, called fry, spend about 1 to 2 years in freshwater before migrating to the ocean. They spend 1 to 3 years at sea before returning to their natal streams to spawn and complete their life cycle. Fishing for coho. Habitat. Found in coastal waters, estuaries, and streams, coho are highly sought after by anglers for their strong fight and impressive aerial displays. Techniques. Freshwater. Drift fishing with eggs, casting spinners, or fly fishing with bright patterns. Saltwater. Trolling with spoons, plugs, or hoochies. Regulations. Fishing regulations for coho salmon vary by location and season, often with restrictions to protect their populations. Conservation. Many coho populations are considered threatened or endangered due to habitat loss, overfishing, and climate change. Conservation efforts focus on habitat restoration, hatchery supplementation, and monitoring population health. If you're interested in fishing coho salmon or learning more about their habitats and behavior, let me know. Fishing for sockeye salmon. A guide to success. Fishing for sockeye salmon, also known as red salmon, is a popular activity due to their delicious taste and the challenge they present to anglers. Here's a guide to help you catch sockeye salmon effectively. 1. Know the timing. Season. Sockeye runs vary by region, but they typically occur in late spring through summer. Check local regulations and run timings for your area. Time of day. Early morning and late evening are often the best times for sockeye fishing, as they are more active during these cooler parts of the day. Two. Locations. Rivers and streams. Sockeye salmon migrate upriver to spawn. Focus on areas with strong currents and deeper pools. Lakes. In some regions, sockeye can be targeted in lakes where they reside before heading upstream. Coastal areas. When fishing in the ocean, look for them near river mouths during migration. Three. Tackle and gear. Rod and reel. A medium to medium heavy spinning or baitcasting rod with a fast action tip is ideal. Pair it with a reel capable of handling 10 to 20 pounds test line. Line. Use braided line for strength and sensitivity, or monofilament for more stretch. Hooks. Use barbless hooks if required by regulations. Size 2 to 4 hooks are common. Weights. Split shots or sliding sinkers help your bait reach the right depth in moving water. Four. Bait and lures. Lures. Flies. Sockeye are often caught on brightly colored flies, e.g., pink, red, or chartreuse, in rivers. Spoons and spinners. Use small, flashy spoons or spinners in silver or red tones. Bait. Fresh shrimp, cured salmon roe, or krill are effective baits. Five. Techniques. Drift fishing. Cast upstream and allow your bait or lure to drift naturally with the current. Casting and retrieving. Effective in lakes or calm river sections. Retrieve your lure with a steady pace. Trolling. In lakes or coastal areas, troll at slow speeds with a downrigger to keep your lure in the Sockeye's strike zone. 6. Reading the water. Look for areas with current breaks, behind rocks or in eddies. Deep pools. Salmon often rest in deeper sections of rivers. River bends. These are natural gathering spots for migrating fish. 7. Regulations and conservation. Always check local fishing regulations for bag limits, gear restrictions, and open seasons. Use ethical catch and release practices if you're not retaining fish. 8. Tips for success. Be patient. Sockeye are notoriously selective and may ignore traditional baits. Match the run. Use local knowledge to choose the best locations and timing. Stay stealthy. Avoid spooking fish by waiting carefully and casting from a distance. Fishing for pink salmon. Key tips and strategies. Fishing for pink salmon, also known as humpback salmon, due to the characteristic hump males developed during spawning, can be an exciting and rewarding experience. Here are some key tips and strategies for fishing pink salmon. When to fish for pink salmon. Season. Pink salmon typically run every 2 years in odd-numbered years, especially in areas like Alaska, the Pacific Northwest, and British Columbia. Runs generally occur in late summer to early fall, July to September. Time of day. Early morning and late evening are the best times, as salmon are more active during low light conditions. Where to fish. Location. Pink salmon are often found near river mouths, estuaries, and shallow tidal areas as they migrate upstream to spawn. Depth. In rivers, they stay in slow-moving, shallow water. In the ocean, they might be found near the surface, especially during their migration. Gear and tackle. Rod and reel. A lightweight spinning or bait casting setup with a rod rated for 8 to 12 pounds test line works well. Line. Use monofilament or braided line in the 8 to 12 pounds range. Leader. A fluorocarbon leader of about 10 to 15 pounds may help reduce visibility in clear water. Lures and baits. Popular lures. Pink-colored lures. Pinks are highly attracted to pink and chartreuse colors. Spoons. Like pixie spoons or meps. Spinners. Bright spinners with pink or red accents. Jigs. Marabou or feathered jigs in pink. Baits. Shrimp or cured salmon eggs are effective when drift fishing or float fishing. Techniques. 1. Casting. Cast lures across the current and retrieve at a moderate pace. Vary retrieval speed to find what works best. 2. Drift fishing. Use a weighted rig to drift bait naturally with the current. Add a float for better visibility. 3. Fly fishing. Use a 6 to 8 weight fly rod with pink or flashy streamers or wet flies. 4. Trolling. In saltwater, troll small hoochies, spoons, or flies behind a flasher. Tips for success. Timing. Focus on peak run times when salmon are most abundant. Current. Cast slightly upstream and let your lure drift naturally. Presentation. Keep your lure near the bottom or mid-water column where pink salmon tend to swim. Observe. Watch for jumping fish to identify active areas. Release. Handle fish gently if practicing catch and release, as pink salmon are more fragile than other species. Regulations. Always check local fishing regulations, including limits, licensing, and gear restrictions, to ensure compliance. Subscribe, share, like, and hit that notification bell. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and share it with your fishing friends and associates. Don't forget to subscribe, like, hit that notification bell for more information on fishing, nature, and other content every day, week, month, and year. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on the current information. Thank you for watching.